Hi gang, welcome back to Day of Days. I think we're going to wrap this one up right here. We've got, we'll say 3.5 turns left. So I started into the 14 June turn and went through the first phases down to the Allied movement. And I got to looking around, and there's no possible way that the Germans in 3.5 turns can get to and take the necessary objectives to stop this invasion from being successful. All right, so let's see why here. So I went over here to the 2nd Panzer where they entered last turn. Let's put the old camera down here. All right, so where 2nd Panzer entered the last turn. And, they got some pretty good armored units in here, but the Allies have, okay, so when you hit a certain turn, when you roll for weather, which the weather determines the amount of airstrikes the Allies get. Once you reach a certain turn, which was a few turns ago, I think, or a couple turns back, you -3 on the die roll. So they've had clear weather or very light overcast for, 2 or 3 consecutive turns. And what that means is they get to roll 3 dice for airstrikes. So they got 12 on this turn alone. Here's what an airstrike looks like. It's like a yellow-coated artillery. They need no spotters. They can fly to any target and hit it, especially in the clear weather. So they've got 12 of these things this turn, and they're very potent. And then you throw in their yellow-coated artillery. I have one you can see. These over here. See, their boxes are yellow-coated. Those are just like those airplanes. Some are 3 strength, some are 4 strength. Well, so what that means is you roll the dice, and depending on the terrain, whether there's a minus or a plus, if they roll a 4 or less, they hit. And then you roll a second dice, and depending on the terrain, if these guys roll a 4 or more, they cause a step loss. So they're pretty potent too. Now in the heavy bocage, it's a -1, so it's a little less effective, but it's still even a 50% chance, and then 2 chances to get a hit. It's, you figure if you drop 3 artillery strikes on a stack and then 2 airstrikes, because that's your max, the odds are you're gonna at least DG them in those 5 rolls, which if you put a DG on one of them, it reduces all their combat effectives down to half strength, attack and defense and their movement, okay? And eliminates their zone of control so you can go right around them. So here's the dilemma. All right, you can see 2nd Panzer, and they still had a couple more stacks to come in this area here. There's one objective sitting over here in this edge, right here with this engineering, or this, what is this? I guess it's an MG, a machine gun unit, I'm assuming. And then everything else is, you've got a couple over here, all right? And then everything else is behind all of this. And if I pull back a little bit more, you can see that the Allies are already starting to build depth here. And there's more behind them coming. They've already got a solid line right here with a hilltop. And over here, they're on half of a division. The 51st, I think, is coming in. And plus all this heavy artillery. They've already blocked off those 3 reinforcement hexes, so nothing can come in through there. All right, so I tried to attack out with these guys on the last turn, and David Murray made a comment that that's heavy bocage over there. The roads don't eliminate the terrain when you're in combat. So that's heavy bocage over here. And I was only able to execute 1 attack. And it was against 2 small units sitting over here, and they did win it. But there's no way they're going to break through all this stuff, because all I can do now is focus the air, and there's plenty of heavy artillery over here to take care of these Germans. So, they say artillery was I want to say they used to call it the king of battle when I was in, because I'm telling you what, I know as a scout, I used to use the daylights out of indirect fire calling that stuff in. So I don't think there's a prayer for these guys over here. There's no way they're going to take back. I think the Germans need to take 4 objectives in about 3 turns. I don't see that happening. Let's move back over towards the south part of Caen. Let's see if we can't get that in there. Okay, so... And also pointed out, and I had waited for somebody to do it, but Michael Whitman's units right in here, okay? He's part of that. These guys actually left a breakout spot across that railroad bridge right there, and the SS poured through it. They did cause a step of damage, but once again, you'll notice there's no objectives in here for them to take. The nearest one to them is 10 hexes away from Whitman. And then after that, it's 15 and more, and there's no way they're going to get that with the depth of the British lines. Tempted to break out. This attack here, both of these stacks took on some engineers and infantry, and you can see this Tiger unit here on top, or Panthers, whatever they may have been, from the 12th SS. They took a beating. They did take a step loss, but it didn't cause the Allies to retreat. I ended up pulling them back. So here's the trick. So the Allies, they move during a turn. They move first. Then you'll get your barrage from both, and then you get your Allied combat, all right? But then the Germans move afterwards and then do combat. So you can simply just keep the Allies, since they hold victory right now if the game ended, which it is going to end now. You keep a 1 hex distance. The Germans can't barrage them without spotters or if they're on a hilltop. And to spot, you have to have for each artillery, unless it's independent, it has to be a unit from its parent organization adjacent to the enemy to spot. Independent artillery units can use any unit can spot for them. So you simply just pull the Allies back, and during the barrage phase, the Germans can't hit them. Now, granted, the Allies can't either, except for the Allies have air. And the air doesn't need a spotter to go in there and hit these targets. And then they also have some big guns out here off the coast that, other than the worst weather, they are assumed to have reconnaissance spots for them. So they don't need a parent unit or an infantry unit up against an enemy to spot it. So now, granted, that's not mammoth, but 12 or 13 airstrikes in a turn? Yeah, with the fighting a little less and less, because there's no sense in the Allies attacking Caen. They've already got the victory. They're not getting across the canal, so we'll give the Germans a kudos for that, because they did not get across the canals. Let's see if we can't get over here. So you can see the 2 canal locations here where 3rd British Infantry was trying to get across. And what would happen is they'd get a barrage, then the Germans would get barrage if that unit was activated, which the last 2 turns they weren't, no reason to. Because they get DG'd, and when their moving phase comes, you just move them out and you move a replacement in there who's already recovered from DG. So it just kept going back and forth, and the only people that were taking a beating, because this is a city hex, were when this unit was active, was any barrage would cause trouble to them. So I realized as the Germans, well, hell, I don't even need to activate that unit right now. And it was the same thing down here, except for he might take a loss or a DG because of where he was sitting. But I could never get, when I finally had a decent attack, which I think I got lucky one time, it was 2-1 because of the losses or whatever that was caused to whatever unit was in here. I think I rolled like a 2. So the only opportunity I had to break across that, and then there was no exploit units down here. Now there's underneath some of these commandos. So there was nothing to exploit across. Plus, where were you going to go? Just across into the 1 hex and then just get yourself smacked in the face by all this armored from the 346th, which is infantry, because I think it's the only infantry normal, like Volksgrenadier type unit on the board that had armor in it. So, and actually, they're probably Stugs. Yeah, they're Stugs and Martyrs. So mobile anti-tank stuff. So there you have it. Caen just stopped attacking it because once I realized I had enough victory points for the Allies everywhere else, there was no sense to. So the Germans are going to hold on to Caen. Now, granted, I'm sure as the big wide American sweep and the breakout would come in, all of the German units here, 2nd Panzer would have probably had to pull out and then head to the, probably to the southeast, yeah. But everything else on the board would have to pull back behind the river below Caen to the south of Caen and go into a defensive posture anyhow. All right, so this is going to end with the Allies having 15 victory points over here on this side of the map. Let's make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so 15 victory points over here. They do not own Caen. So what did it take? Did it take Monty? Was it 21 days to take Caen? So we played how many? 6 to the 14th. So we're not even 21 days, 8 or 9 days, and we still haven't taken it. We've attacked it a couple times, which that's freaking futile to do. Um, but we never got across the canal, not even once. And if I remember right, from looking at some historical stuff, I want to say that Seventh Armored got some, or either Seventh Armored or some of these independent armored units attached to these divisions on the initial lane. It was either them or Seventh Armored that got across and helped the Para out. So Para in the real struggle did much better than I was able to do with Para in this one. I could just not get across that canal. From the very moment I had Germans against that canal, the Allies have been stifled since. So from turn one all the way through it, they have never gotten across the canal at either point. They have not entered the city of Caen at any point. Well, no, they did early. I tried to race some armor up in there, but that was a waste. That was a waste of armor that I shouldn't have done. But outside of that, the Allies have never touched Caen. So, all right, gang. Well, so there you have the game. But I want to do a quick sort of a gloss over. And I know y'all have heard me say this multiple times. So the SCS system is massive. And there are a number of games in the system. And they all start with a base set of rules. And then each individual game builds on those rules with their scenario, what you call, I guess, their scenario rules applying to the game that implement modifications or changes or something else to meet the requirements of the environment you're fighting in or the historical battle or whatever it may be. All right. The supply rules are simple in this game, and I think the supply rules are the standard. It's, I don't know, it's 5 hexes, I think. Hexes that you could actually traverse to a road, and the road leads back to a supply source continuously with no interruptions and no enemy. Okay? Zone of controls for supply are negated by a friendly unit, and they don't have to actually be in the hex. If they are sharing the zone of control on an empty hex with an enemy unit, then supply can pass through it. All right? On a retreat, though, there is no zone of control negation. So if you got to retreat through an enemy zone of control, regardless, even if you have a friendly unit in there, you're going to take a step loss for each hex you hit that's in an enemy zone of control. So it's very simple stuff. Now, there's one rule in this game that about 6 turns in, I threw out the door because I don't think it was necessary. Now, smaller games, I was discussing with Wardrobe online a day ago. While he was playing Screaming Eagles in the Bastogne game for SCS, they have a rule called Road March where units can move unstacked completely across the map as long as they stay on roads. If it's a multi-map scenario, the minute they touch a different map, they got to stop. So you could literally move from the back corner of that map all the way up here to the coast in a morning's drive or in an evening's drive. And I get that on some of the larger scale maps, I guess, where the terrain distance isn't, maybe it's like 100 meters or something. I get it in that, but I didn't like that. So about halfway through the game, I said, no, I'm not going to use Road March because these guys, when they're on the road, these mechanized units with a movement of 12, they're going to move 24 spaces, 24 hexes. And it seemed to me that was far more accurate than having Road March. So for me, for this game, tossing the Road March rule, to me, made the game, I don't know, just it seemed to me to make it a lot more representative of movement. Because Bocage is going to slow you down. Oh, that's another thing, too, for this game. So if you're in these Bocage hexes over here, and the lighter ones are just light Bocage, and that big dark green area down there is heavy Bocage, on this side of the map, you cannot overrun, period, on this side of the map. So if the overrun involved a Bocage, you could not do it. Overruns were for clear hexes or beach hexes only. That's what it says in the special rules for this game. I think the artillery is a good system. It's simple. There's no, you don't have to calculate a bunch of factors. Each artillery or air unit, it is fired individually, and you have, like I say, an artillery unit from a parent organization has to have a spotter from its parent organization, which is a unit adjacent to the enemy. Independent units can have a spotter from any organization, has to be adjacent. Close air support does not need it. Certain battleships or certain ships off the coast have their own reconnaissance in the air. Well, that's how they referenced it. So they can hit, it's not all of them, it's a majority of them. Strong points for the Germans, which is where the one victory point for the Germans would take away from the Allies. Those guys, those in the 88s, they could spot for themselves, or another fortress could spot. They're on a beach hex, overlooking a beach hex. They can see like 4 hexes away, I think, anything. And they got a little bit of a benefit on their die rolls for causing damage. But I tell you, other than a few in some weird like fortresses that were stuck in some of these city hexes, most of the ones that were just sitting on the bluffs and in the clear, they disappeared pretty quickly. The naval guns took a lot of those, and any artillery that was lucky enough to land that was yellow coated helped out. I had 2 that sat over here forever, and I just kind of waited to get after them because there was no reason for me to hurry. They weren't affecting anything other than 1 point of victory, which they could have stayed there and it wouldn't have mattered. The Allies still would have ended up with 13, which they needed 12 or better to win. 11 or less. 11 down to 8 was like a draw, and less than 8, I think, was a German victory. So this is a monster game. You're only seeing 2 maps. There are obviously 2 more for the American sector that would go over here. I think map B would sit exactly flush against this one, and then map A would be over here, and it would be countered up a little bit. So where it kind of sticks up above map B to cover the American landing areas and the airborne drops over there. What did I think this was missing? Well, because I wasn't playing the whole game with A and B, I kept asking myself, if map B had been here with the American sectors and the Germans were doing well against the Americans, I possibly could have shifted troops down into the Commonwealth sector to help out. So I'm going to say that, and I don't know, because like I said, I don't read. Those of you that read can probably validate any of this for me, but I have to assume that the Commonwealth pressure would not have been like this, and probably was not like this so fast. Because the only thing I get coming from this side of the map is the 2nd Panzer reinforcements that come on here towards the almost end of the game. So I keep thinking to myself, if I'd had the luxury of map B and any German units were on there, I possibly could have shifted those German units over here and thwarted the big push that the Commonwealth was able to make. Because they definitely threw everything back into Com, but you know what? If I were to replay this, I think I would execute the same fight over here. Get rid of the pairs as fast as I can to save that side of the map, and so that I don't have to think about it and I can minimize the defensive structure over here. But try to keep more of the, which I don't know because they don't really have a lot of infantry on this thing, more of the SS and Lear, because 21st is already in the game when you start. But keeping more of the SS and Lear in better locations to have a better reserve to strike. I still don't think without more reinforcements that they could defend along this line or along this river line and over towards Caen. I don't think they have enough. And with the airstrikes and the heavy coated artillery, yellow coated artillery, it was just too much. Then again, you got dice rolls. So, if you're rolling bad, which I went through streaks with artillery where, shoot, I hit 3 artillery strikes and 2 airstrikes on 1 hex in the freaking clear and never once rolled a hit. Maybe got 1 DG or something out of 5 rolls. But and that's what you're aiming for with artillery. Losses are great, but you want to DG that enemy before you attack. And it's great for the Allies because they move in before the barrages. And then you got to hope the Germans don't have enough artillery to DG everything that's in the attack. All right? Attacking. Units from one parent organization cannot combine an attack with units from another parent organization. So, in other words, the commando units there if let's say the commando units are attacking that infantry across the river and there was a paratroop unit sitting in an empty hex, they can't attack that unit together. And you can only attack a hex one time. So that with the ground combat. Independent units, do I have one? Yeah, see that 42R tank, 4214 tank, he's an independent unit. They have to be with a banded unit. And when I say banded unit, that means one assigned to a parent. So 3rd British Infantry are the ones with the brown with the big white stripes. He has to be with those, or he can attack if he's by himself in a hex and one of the 3rd British Infantry is in a hex beside him and he's attacking, he can attack with that unit, okay? Other than that, they can't do any exploits unless they're stacked with a unit that can exploit that's banded. They cannot overrun unless they're with a unit that's banded, and literally overrun, you got to be stacked with the unit. So that was a trick for me to get used to. The one thing I struggled with in this game was you have these, what are they called? Nightjar, David, I think, the RMAS, or the like one range infantry guns or assault guns. Well, some of those had strengths of 4, and I know damn well they were used in infantry assaults on cities and stuff, or fortifications or improved positions or whatever. But their only purpose was from adjacent to bombard, to barrage. You couldn't use them as an attack force of any kind. They were simply had to move adjacent and do barrage. Now, granted, they had a strength of 4, so that or a barrage rating of 4. But you would have thought they might have had a +2 taking down structures like these fortresses, these strong points. Same thing with engineers. Engineers in this game serve no purpose. That's a rule that I think now maybe it isn't some of the other different games inside their scenario rules, but engineers serve no purpose. No purpose for river crossings, stream crossings, no purpose against fortifications or improved positions or bunkers or strong points or whatever. They're just another infantry unit. Now, fortunately, in the game here, they're pretty much the same strength as the Allied infantry for the most part. I mean, most of the infantry's their attack strength is 2, and so almost all the engineers in these infantry divisions are the same way. Okay, gorgeous map. All right, beautiful map. Probably one of the nicest maps I've seen. Really, really great detail. The series itself, Standard Combat Series, I played, I think, 3. All 3 have been phenomenal. Yes, Tony, including Rock of the Marne, but you're right. It's pretty stagnant for about 8 or 9 turns, and then it gets exciting. Scenario rules, I think this is a wonderful idea. I don't know if I can think of a game system. I mean, I know they're there. Any game that has a series will have standard rules, and then you'll have individual rules for the scenarios. And this one does. I think this series is great. I know it's nobody sits on the fence. They're on the side of the fence where, yeah, this is great, or they're on the side of the fence where, no, this doesn't work. Look, put it to you simple. If you have a desire, you really want to play a monster game, but you don't want to read 80 pages of rules, this game right here is perfect. All right, if you have the opportunity to get Day of Days, I'm telling you to get it. If you got a friend that's got it, ask if you can borrow it. Play a 2-map scenario. If you got the room, set up the whole shebang and play it. I'm telling you that this game is worth every penny. Now, I know they had it on sale for $30 during the MMP sale. I wish I'd have bought another copy that I would have given to somebody gladly, I'm sure. But I think it's back to like $120 now. But I'm telling you, for me, a monster game with the easy to understand rules, easy to play, and I have had a blast with this. I wish I had put myself, at least for the Germans, in a better situation to go ahead and take this thing to the end. But I can see that because of the decisions I made. And kind of cool, and I noted in my last video, that not pre-reading where reinforcements came in at. Believe me, I was watching that 2nd Panzer stack that's over there in that corner. I saw them sitting in that turn 17 box. But I never bothered to look where they came in at. And then I think like a half a turn before that turn, I went and looked. I was like, oh my God, I don't have any allies over here, and I didn't block any of those hexes. So I had to do some hasty shifting, but the allies were able to do it because there's a nice major road network running down through there. So I was able to get some 7th Armored guys across and bring up some other infantry and stuff. So It kind of sealed that second Panzer's fate over there. So yeah, great game. I loved it, guys. And I got more SCS stuff over there on the shelf. I know I'm going to get after it in Everstones. We got Rostov 41. Some are telling me to play Panzer battles. I got Stalingrad, the first and the second version, which, by the way, I got that from Ard Wolf. Thanks, Ard, for the great price. Guadalajara, I've already played Rock of the Marne. I got Yom Kippur, and I've got Heights of Courage, which are the 1973, the Israeli fight. What else I got? Oh, I got Mighty Endeavor, the extended version of that. I hear that's a good one, too. I'll get to that. Ghazala, that's another. I wasn't even aware of that one. So I've got those there to play. I'm not sure if I'm going to put one of those back up yet. I got OCS burning in my head. Over here on the other table, I've got, I threw up Guderian's Blitzkrieg, the first version. Just kind of a refresher because after Tunisia was the only one I had looked at for OCS, and I love the OCS system. And I haven't even played, a full-blown game of it yet. So I'm debating. I really want to play a Goss game, one of the decision games. Maybe it'll be Wacht am Rhein. I'm just about finished punching Lucky Ford. Maybe it'll be Lucky Ford, which is their newest one from Decision Games. I really want to get that. But I think once I put that on this table, it definitely will sit here for a while because I haven't learned the Goss rules yet. I've been watching Steelstone and LBW Steve vassal it twice a month, watching them play. And it seems to me that once you're into playing and you know all of the majority of the rules, the game does actually flow pretty smooth. You got a lot of little checks you got to make for when you do combat for die roll modifiers, but it's like Great Battles of the American Civil War from GMT. It's the same thing in that. I love that series. So if I do put a Goss game up here, it's going to be here for a while, and you probably won't get the full blow of it until I get comfortable with going through the rules. Then again, maybe I do a one-map scenario over here on the small table, and I put up a big OCS one over here. Like I kind of got the Blitzkrieg Legend in my mind for France 1940. Or maybe I do Beyond the Rhine or something like that. And then I got GTS burning in the back of my head. So, and like I say, come on. I got all that stuff to look at. But I guarantee I haven't played 2% of those games. So I got a lot of stuff I want to get on the table. But those are the ones. And I really want to play a desert game. So, all right. So last words. Day of Days. Easy to play for a monster game. If you can get your hands on it, get it, play it. Let me know what you think. All of those of you that have been watching this thing and giving me little tidbits of advice and strategy attempts like Nightjar, David Murray, a bunch of you others out there, just all kinds of interesting little tidbits. Those of you that have thumbs up that thing, I sure appreciate it. Make sure you thumbs up this one. If you're new to it, subscribe, hit that notify buzzer, and every time I throw one of these things up, you'll get a notification. And I try to shoot as many videos as I possibly can. So thanks for watching. It's been a great year, and look forward to starting the next one. All right, we'll talk to y'all soon.